I had to drive back from a 16-hour drive, which I planned on taking one go. I'm a female, and I've always considered myself to be very independent. Before departing, I stopped at a gas station to fill up on gas and get a snack at a very busy cluster of gas stations in the middle of nowhere. It was a few hours shy of Sacramento. I parked off to the side after gassing up, so I could stretch, use the bathroom, and replenish my road snacks in Red Bull. In preparation for the road trip, I didn't notice anything out of the ordinary, and I got back on the road. When I was about an hour in, I got a tire pressure warning light signal on my dashboard. Normally I'd stop on the side of the road to assess, but something in my gut told me not to. It was a very empty stretch of highway, with curves and a soft shoulder. The vehicles seemed to be handling fine. It was also a rental and I paid for extended insurance, so I wasn't too worried about it. I eventually hopped out of the left lane and noticed a sign for a town that was 9 miles up the road. I decided to take a chance and made my way to a small bolero, next to what looked like an abandoned diner. I pulled in with hopes of finding an air pump. In case there was a slow tire leak, I didn't see one, so I parked and got out of the vehicle. I immediately heard a hissing sound and watched the tires slowly sink until the rim touched the ground. It was definitely inconvenient, but I figured the rental SUV would have a full-size spare. So I checked the trunk and found a donut tire. I got on the phone with the Enterprise, and they said they could send someone to put the spare on in about an hour annoyed. I replied, "No thanks, I can do it in 10 minutes." They also gave me the option to swap the car out in Sacramento the following day. It was Sunday, so all the car shops near me were closed. I decided that I would put the tire on myself, then possibly swap it out the next day. Once I started working in the tire, I had to wave off a very nice Good Samaritans. But one car in particular, with 3 males, was extra pushy about helping. COVID luckily gave me an added excuse in requesting that they keep their distance and go about their way. I spoke loudly and firm enough, in my insistence that I caught the attention of the few other people in my vicinity, standing at the gas pumps. Eventually they gave up and drove off. I swapped out the donuts and started driving, contemplating my next move. It was December and I was not about to brave the Shasta Mountain pass on the donuts, nor try and drive on that robbing thing the rest of the 10 hours home. But I really needed a get home. I searched tire shops, but everyone I found was closed, because it was Sunday. Then it dawned on me to search Walmart. I knew I could be cutting it close, but I thought that if I could make it to Sacramento in time, I could get a cheap full-size tire at the other center before they close, so I could make it home that night. I pulled in with about 20 minutes to spare and explained my situation to the very kind grandfatherly man working there. I let him know what I wanted to keep the flat tire to return to the rental company, just in case, as I was waiting in the dingy Walmart Auto Center lobby. The old man walked in with very serious look on his face, holding a pair of pliers in his hand. Clasped between the metal pliers was a box blade. He asked me if I had gotten into any altercation or made someone angry, completely puzzled. I said no, I'm not from around here, I was just passing through. He said that it was almost impossible for the blade to have been lodged in my tire in the fashion in which it was. He asked if I had noticed anyone following, with an inflection of concern in his voice that made my blood run cold. To be honest, I had been so preoccupied with figuring out my next move, I wouldn't have noticed that someone had been. My mind immediately went back to the overly pushy men at the gas station. As I thought about it more intently, they didn't actually stop at a gas station. They just pulled in next to my car and then left. I stuttered in, "Oh, I don't know." The old man told me to take a drive around the building and into the neighborhood and watch my rear view mirror. He instructed me to pull back into the mechanic bay and honk, explaining that they'll come out. He told me that this was an all too common ploy, used on that stretch of highway. He explained how these people would insert the blade, just enough to get people to break down on the deserted stretches in between their small towns. I thanked him profusely and got back in my rental to test the waters. Luckily, after a few erratic lefts and rights, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. So I looped back onto the highway and pressed on into the night. The dark, desolate highway loomed in more threatening manner, as every nerve in my body was on high alert. It wasn't until I was on the road for about 15 minutes, when I saw the same car from earlier, I started to freak out. But I kept driving, looking back occasionally. They ended up following me for 2 whole hours, until they eventually got off at an exit. I've never been targeted before, and I'm generally pretty aware of my surroundings. I still don't know what those people were up to, but it was definitely no good. This experience definitely rattled my false sense of immortality. To all those traveling along the I-5 stretch past Bakersfield alone, be mindful of where you stop in emergencies. I try to not think about what could have happened if my independent ego had overridden my gut instinct and I had stopped on the shoulder instead.